Greetings, Zimbabwe, and welcome to the program Power Talk. My name is Sean Moyo. Today on the program, we host the Ambassador of the People's Republic of Palestine, Ambassador Dr. Tama Almazri. Ambassador, welcome to the program.
I thank you. I thank you very much.
Perfect, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak to you today, Ambassador.
You are welcome.
Perfect. Getting into it, Ambassador, may you perhaps give us a brief history of the relationship or the problem that is between Israel and Palestine, just in a nutshell, the source of the problem and up to date.
Actually, if you want the source of the problem, it's the Holy Land of Palestine for the Palestinians, and it's Arab country. We received the immigrants, Jews, who escaped from racism and discrimination in Europe as visitors and as guests. Later, this at the beginning of the 20th century. Later on, they made coalition with the British occupation. They got what's so-called Balfour Declaration in 1917, 2nd of November, to give them that a homeland or Jewish state in the Holy Land of Palestine. That the promise come from the occupier to the immigrants who came to Palestine. Then they increased their immigration year by year, and they used what did happen in the Holocaust as victims, and you know that the Holocaust is condemned everywhere. After the end of the Second World War, they used their power and they established many militias. This is the simple story, actually, but if you want to speak in politics and history, I think it will be
Much bigger.
yes, much bigger and deeper. And they announced the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948. So it's very a newborn state, and we should understand that Israel is not normal country, because it the coalition inside the country is abnormal, and you should understand it very well. The citizens of the what's so called the State of Israel from 120 countries, and they come from 78 nations, origins. They speak 80 languages.
80 languages.
80 languages.
Different languages.
Yes, their origin. But now the national language is Hebrew. But the origins. For this reason, you see that the racism nowadays and the extremist direction control all the country, because they have a deep differentiation among the society, among the institutions, among the state, and they try to prove their loyalty by going to the extremist point against the Palestinians, the owners of the land. So this is the simple story of the establishment of Israel.
Conflict. Okay.
Yes.
Ambassador, if I may come back to you there, you said they began coming basically around the early 20th century, and then eventually 1917 at the Balfour Declaration. You mean before that there was no history of Israel or Israelites in the land?
No. The State of Israel was invented or created in 1948. And before that, the people, the citizens of Israel, they came as immigrants from a lot of countries, mainly from Europe. Yes, they escaped from Europe.
Right.
They escaped to our land, but we received them as immigrants at the beginning. Later on, when the British occupation started to Palestine in 1917, they used this opportunity to strengthen their relations with the occupiers of the country, and we were oppressed, and actually they became one hand against us. That's all. But put in your mind that we have a Palestinian Jewish community. They refuse to be a part of Israel, and until now they live in Jersey Mountain. It's in Nablus, in West Bank, and they think that Israel shouldn't be established in Palestine. They think it like they look at Israel as a sin.
And these are Jewish people.
Jewish people, and they are represented in the Palestinian National Assembly by a member in the parliament.
Okay, but if I may go back into history, Ambassador, Jews believe that they were promised this land biblically by God, as they put it, and they say they were the occupants before they left into exile or slavery, as it were. I'm not sure if it's the context with which they used to then come back, as you say, as refugees or as escaping persecution in Europe.
Okay, by the way, it's a big lie. It's a myth, actually. The promised land, it equals the selected people. Because you find it in this concept a kind of discrimination against you, against me, and against everybody. When I say that we are the selected people from the God, so I give myself the privilege and the authority to do anything because I am the selected guy from the Almighty Allah, Almighty God. Actually, it doesn't work. For this reason, in their ideology, the people who believe on that, they believe that they should be the masters of the humankind, and the other peoples or the other nations should be their servants, according to this ideology. So we should refuse that. This is the main thing. The other thing, that who can convince me or you that they are the selected God, selected people, and they have the promised land? Who promised them? Do you think that the God said that you are a promise of this land, go to kill another people and make ethnic cleansing, kill the children, kill the women, kill the old men, and push them out of their cities and their homelands to take it? Is this the instruction of the God to kill the other people? I think actually it's very important. And by the way, this is very important thing. The founder of Zionism, Israel, is like a result or the outcome of the Zionism or the Zionist project. The founder of Zionism, Theodor Herzl, who passed at the early of the 20th century, I think 1907 or 1907, 1904, something like this. In the early, the first decade of the 20th century, he who passed away, he was atheist. So he doesn't believe in God. And even the first president of Israel, Chaim Weizmann, the first prime minister of Israel, David Ben-Gurion, were atheists. So they don't believe in God, but they believe that the God promised them of this land. It doesn't work. And actually, do you think that it would be doable for any person to come here to Zimbabwe to say that this our land because the God told us that you are promised 30 or 3,000 years ago? Who can accept that? And even in this concept, according to the history, they didn't find any proof that they have exist in Palestine. They passed in Palestine, but they didn't live. They passed in Palestine. Historically. And even and before that, the Palestinians, before we have history in Palestine, more than 12,000 years. For example, the oldest city in the world is Jericho. Jericho is Palestinian. So we are before their history, 3,000 years. We are before of them at least 7,000 years. even the concept, if we want to speak it scientifically, it's incorrect there totally.
Right. If I may come back to the Palestinian relations in themselves, there are two main parties, which is Fatah and Hamas. And what's the relationship like between Fatah and Hamas? I believe you're from PLO, which probably would be Fatah.
Yes. First of all, let's say that Palestine, we have more than one party,
Okay.
and we have about 10 political parties, even more.
Okay.
10 political parties. And we, according to our history, the differentiation between the political parties happened, not from today, since the beginning of the Palestinian revolution the recent revolution in 1965. Yes, we are PLO, but if you want to say that we are under the Israeli occupation, the Palestinian voice is one.
All right. Yes, I wanted to zoom in on that to understand the relationship between Hamas and the PLO, and also basic maybe to ask you to shed light on where the PLO or the main government stands regarding what happened on October 7, where Hamas allegedly, well, I can't say allegedly because it's not proven, that they attacked southern Israel.
No, it is not actually. I don't think that the question is correct. Just to be very clear, because if you want to speak about 7th of October as the beginning, I refuse that.
No, not necessarily as the beginning of the conflict, but perhaps as the beginning of this current major war that is.
No. Before that, Israel was before that Israel was attacking Gaza Strip, West Bank, and Jerusalem, and they want to Judaize Jerusalem. What did happen in the holy city of Jerusalem was the main pillar of all the developments later on. And we cannot ignore that Gaza Strip under the Israeli siege for 16 or 17 years. We cannot ignore that the Israeli government refused totally to go through the to end the occupation through the United Nations resolutions. Totally ignored the UN resolutions. We cannot ignore that Israel in West Bank killed last year more than 350 innocents. So actually, I refuse actually the Israeli concept. The Israeli concept that ask about everything. And by the way, when you ask about the conflict and about the Palestinian issue or about the Palestinian government, I expect you to come before to ask me about the Israeli or the Palestinian position. You should ask me about what is happening, the Israeli crimes, because it's a genocide, and you cannot say that it is not genocide because the ICJ accepted the case as a genocide.
Right.
Yes.
No, I was coming to that, Ambassador, but I wanted to build a backdrop on what triggered the current major war which is happening right now in Gaza, where thousands of people are being killed. And Israel attributes this to the violence that happened on the 7th of October.
It is not violence.
So in the Palestinian viewpoint, do you approve of what happened on the 7th of August? Do you?
First of all, the 7th of October was a day. In from thousands of the Palestinian days under the occupation. And Israel actually used to behave as occupier to Palestine. Israel refused all the initiatives by the UN and by the other countries to end the occupation. Israel established the current government that deny the existence of the people of Palestine. They don't see any Palestinian. They imposed one of the aggressive siege in the world against Gaza Strip. They Judaized Jerusalem, and they prevented even the Christians to behave or to worship in their churches peacefully. They attack the holy site of Al-Aqsa Mosque for Muslim daily. They they kill our civilians every day in West Bank, Jerusalem, and in Gaza Strip. They expanded the settlements that totally condemned by the international community and the international law. So the occupation is running daily, but with rapid and the quick actions just to push the Palestinians to leave their country, their homes. This, with the Israeli current aggressive, was the action. 7th of October, you can calculate or you can look at it as a reaction or as one page in the occupation book. It didn't start from that day, but how the Israeli reacted. And by the way, you can see south of Israel, that area, it should be buffer zone, and actually it's Gaza, the Gaza Strip territories. They occupy it, they take it in the 1950, and they build their settlements. But we should understand that what Israel is doing, Israel is not normal state to say that these people attack me. If I want to condemn them, so I should condemn all the national movements who resist the occupations. Here in Zimbabwe, before 1980, can South Rhodesia, do you think that South Rhodesia was able to condemn the freedom fighters of Zimbabwe for their resistance? Was it acceptable in your... Okay, so what is the difference nowadays? We are under occupation even according to the international law, according even to the United States and United Kingdom. The main supporters of the apartheid state of Israel.
And coming to the issue of the U.S. Support for Israel, do you think the current administration of President Joe Biden is doing enough to stop the war, or do you think there will be any peace achieved under the current administration?
No, actually, the current administration of Joe Biden is partner in the Israeli genocide against our people. All our people killed by American weapons. And unfortunately, we see the President Biden with his colleagues in the American administration behave as spokespersons sometimes of the Israeli apartheid occupation and the Israeli army. So, and even they refuse totally to call for ceasefire, and they announced that totally. Unfortunately, their position is not clear for that. We condemned killing all the civilians, but unfortunately the Israelis, you know, that build some propaganda even about what did happen in 7th of October, because the Israeli airstrikes killed and the Israeli fire actually killed some Israeli citizens.
On that very day.
Yes, yes, 7th, according to some investigations in American and the French newspapers, and even Haaretz, the Israeli newspaper, said that. Yes, said that. Yes, and we hope that everybody will investigate about what did happen, because we should understand. We should understand.
So far, how many people have died? Okay, how many people died on the 7th of October in Israel, and also how many have died currently in Palestine due to the siege?
I am not the spokesperson of the Israeli side. They announced many stories, and all of them vice versa of each other. There is paradox in their story. But I can tell you about what did happen in Palestine. Israel actually, until now, killed 28,500 Palestinians. 70% of them are children and women. Some of them are mothers, and some of them are pregnant. One of them is my mother.
Sorry about that.
Yes, and we have 7,000 missing under the rubbles, so they are martyrs. We cannot actually take them from under the rubbles, and you can say now that we have almost 36,000 were killed. According to the United Nations and UNICEF, the Palestinian children who were killed in 4 months in Gaza Strip, they are triple of the children who were killed in all the world conflicts. We have about 70% Palestinians injured, more than 40% of them in critical situations. Israel destroyed all the Gaza Strip hospitals and health clinics, more than 90% out of service now. And they attack even in the operation room. They killed 3 days ago Palestinian doctor who, while he was making operation to injure. They killed by a sniper. Israel destroyed all the Gaza Strip universities, all of them destroyed totally. They destroyed partly and completely more than 400 schools. They destroyed the old, more than 1,000 mosques for Muslims. They targeted 3 churches, one of them the 3rd oldest church in the world. They killed the highest number of the UN employees, United Nations employees, more than 140 employees of the United Nations. They assassinated more than 135 journalists. Some of them, they were killed with their families. They targeted them because they don't want the people to understand what is happening in the ground. They targeted our ambulances. Imagine now in Gaza Strip we have less than 10 ambulances cars that serve 2 million point 3.
Less than 10.
Less than 10 because they targeted all of them. They targeted the Palestinian doctors, more than 200 with the ambulances officers. They were targeted. So the professors, the Palestinian professors, or the quality citizens, they targeted them one by one. This the Israeli what you asking me about it, and actually they destroyed the infrastructure. 85% of the homes were destroyed. One of them, my family home, by airstrike, because they have a lot of weapons and bombs that take it for free from America and Britain. So you cannot actually ignore the Palestinian disaster. According to the Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Guterres, he said that the bombs or the destruction in Gaza Strip more than the destruction that happened in the Second World War in Dresden, for example, as a symbol of the worst example of the destruction at that time. So we have that, and even Joseph Borrell said that on behalf of the European Union. So until now, the Israeli apartheid regime, they don't want to stop the war, and they want actually to kill everybody. So when you start asking any Palestinian or any politician about what is happening, that it started from the 7th of October. No, it didn't start from the 7th of October. Actually, we want stability and we want peace. We don't want any actually action that can disturb the security in the region. But actually, this should start by end the occupation. But if you want to keep your occupation and to keep your superiority and to ignore the international community, to jump the international law, then you want to say that I want to live leg above leg and I ignore the Palestinians who are suffering, the owners of the land. Who can accept that? So the reaction should be expected. Should be expected. Otherwise, you want the people of Palestine to behave or to exclude their human feature. As a human feature, if anybody hits you, maybe you should expect your reaction. We have daily occupation, and even the Israeli occupation give the authorization for their settlers to kill any Palestinian without any judge. Just kill. If you shoot and kill.
And speaking of the American administration, do you think if President Trump were to be re-elected, that it would present a better prospect for peace, or it would be the same in your view? Do you think the American position would change if a new president, or say Trump, or it would remain the same?
Actually, I cannot judge, and it's something like political affairs inside the United States, and we are not actually interfering in their politics. And I don't actually want to go in comparison. We are talking about America, the position, the official position of the United States of America. Actually, it doesn't help. And by the way, we thank and we highly appreciate all the initiatives that come from the United States, or from the civil society, from their community, even from the Democratic Party, or from the Progressive Front in America, against the war and against the Israeli genocide in Gaza Strip, and against even the American administration position to support the Israeli butchering to our children and our women. This actually highly appreciated. Their voice very well here in Palestine and everywhere. But we think that this support to Israel, it will not help the stability in the Middle East, and it will not help the American credibility, especially when they talk about the values of human rights, democracy, freedom of speech, and the other values. The American administration nowadays, I think, commit big mistake. Even if you want to judge this mistake according to the American exist in the region, it doesn't help them, and the American reputation nowadays actually doesn't seem well according to their position in Gaza Strip.
And what is your comment on South Africa has been standing with Palestine very strongly internationally, and recently they went to the ICJ to file a suit against Israel. What's your position on South Africa's action, and also were you happy with the outcome of the ruling by the ICJ?
Actually, we highly appreciate all the support and solidarity that we receive from everywhere, especially from Africa. You know that the comrades in South Africa have or had a very bad experience under the Apartheid regime, so they understand exactly what does it mean when you are oppressed, and they understand it very clear when you are under occupation, and when you suffer from discrimination, and when you suffer from daily killing. So they reflected their principles in their supporting to stop the Israeli genocide in Gaza Strip. And actually, the other positions, even here from Zimbabwe, that the great position that we received from our comrades in ZANU-PF and the government of Zimbabwe, the leadership led by His Excellency Comrade Emmerson Mnangagwa against the genocide and to call for ceasefire and start building peace in the region, highly appreciated. So we think that this is the real step that every country should follow in judging the Israeli apartheid regime, because this helped to stop the Israeli occupation, and also this put the pressure on the colonial power who support the Israeli apartheid regime and who support the Israeli killing and butchering our civilians in Palestine, especially in Gaza Strip nowadays. So, but the outcome, we expected, frankly, to call for ceasefire immediately, but we hope in the 26th of February this month that they can take action, because they give 1 month for review, and I'm sure that the Israeli apartheid occupation increased their crimes and their massacres in Gaza Strip, and I think the international community should say some or a real statement to stop this mess in our area.
Yes. And I recently heard that the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said, refused the idea of a two-state solution, where he said there can never be a two-state solution where Palestine exists side by side with Israel. What would be your reaction to that?
Actually, as we mentioned, Israel is a newborn country in our area, and it is not the first occupation to Palestine. Palestine used to face bad experiences of the invaders and the oppressors among the history. All of them were defeated. All of them were defeated. But this occupation has the new criteria that they don't, they came to our homeland and then they ignored our exist. And now they say that you are dangerous of us if you want to have a political entity like a state. Sooner or later, the Palestinian people will achieve their goals, and we will achieve our independence, we will achieve our liberation, we will achieve our dignity, and we will achieve our independence. So no one can judge or can control the Palestinian people, and I'm not sure that the conflict is continue running, and the Israeli apartheid state cannot say that we win, that they win. So now the United States, the other powers who support Israel, they should say something, because they support the two-state solution. And I am sure that the legitimacy of the apartheid state of Israel, I think it will be in the scale in the next future, because no one in the 21st century accept to ignore or to erase a nation because you don't want them. And that nation, actually, we received them. We received the Israelis when they escaped from the discrimination in Europe. So, and I'm sure the unity of inside the Israeli apartheid state will not be the same, because as soon they are finished, they will fight each other. They are not united as we follow what is happening there.
And my second last question, Ambassador, would be, okay, again, it's a bit of a difficult question, you forgive me, but I just want a bit of clarity. Do you, as Palestine, or as the PLO, believe in a two-state solution, And number two, do you believe in the right of Israel to exist? I know it's a difficult question, but kindly be patient with me.
Okay, let's say something. We asked everybody for two-state solution. And unfortunately, the refusing of this choice was from Israel. The right of exist, I think you should ask the Israelis, do you accept the exist of the Palestinians in their homeland? I think that will be the correct question. But to come to the oppressed victim to say, do you accept that your butcher to exist? I don't want occupation. If there exists to be to be oppressed and to keep my citizens bleeding all the time, why should I accept? We should ask Israel, do you accept the Palestinian people? Do you accept the Palestinian state? Do you accept the exist of the Palestinian people in their homelands that they live since the establishment of Jericho 10,000 years ago? The question should be there, but I don't like actually this to come to the victim and to play with the victim with this kind of words, because we are the victims of occupation. The Israelis, they say that they were victims of Holocaust. We agree with that. But the Holocaust was in Europe as a theater, and it happened by themselves, the European or the Western. We were not part of that Holocaust. But now, if the Israelis were the victims of the Second World War, now we are the victims of the victims. So I don't think that this is a suitable question. You should ask the Israelis, do you accept to stop killing the Palestinians? Do you accept to leave any one day in the year without Palestinian bloodshed in the ground? This actually should be asked to the Israelis.
And as a disclaimer, we are going to also to interview the Israeli ambassador, and again we'll ask them difficult questions, definitely, just so they really give their own side of the story. So some of the questions may be a bit deep. Since again you lost your mother in this conflict, it's very painful, and I'm sorry about that. And definitely I understand that it's an emotive issue to the Palestinians.
And actually, you should ask about also, or you should follow the United Nations figures. Who can accept this to happen in the 21st century? To destroy 2.3 million civilians. And actually to start to ignore your occupation as Israelis, to ignore your massacres as Israelis, to ignore your crimes as Israelis, to ignore your oppression actions as Israelis, then to start what did happen in the 7th of October. And even what did happen in the 7th of October, they exaggerated many times, like raping ladies, blah, blah, blah. No one proved or present one evidence of that. And even the Israeli Haaretz newspaper said that. The French newspaper said that. The British newspaper said that. British newspapers.
Last question, Ambassador, would be I would say your cousins or your neighbors in Jordan and Egypt. I understand Jordan is about 70% of Palestinians who are in exile, if I'm correct, or you can correct me there. And Egypt is a large percentage as well of Palestinians. But recently, since the beginning of this Gaza siege and this war on Gaza, Egypt and Jordan have refused to open their borders to allow the Palestinians to leave that territory. What is your position regarding that refusal? Is it done in good faith, or they've got other reasons that they may?
Actually, the percentage that you have about the Palestinian in Egypt and Jordan are not correct.
Right.
And let's say that your question comes with the Israeli propaganda. Frankly, just to be very frank, now we should speak Yes, the Israelis themselves, if they want the Palestinian to move, I think the Palestinians should move from Gaza Strip to their homeland, the real cities in Java, Haifa, Acre, Jerusalem, because and they have capacity for that. Why to go to Egypt? Egypt for Egyptians, Jordan for Jordanians. For us, we highly appreciate the Egyptian and the Jordanian positions to refuse the dismissing or the displacing of the Palestinian people from Gaza Strip and West Bank. And we want to stay in our homeland. We shouldn't leave it, in spite that we pay hot price by blood, but we should defend our exist in homeland. And I don't think that will be the question. The question, why Israel doesn't want to stop the genocide. This is the question. But to go with the Israeli solutions, to extremist solutions, okay, let's the Palestinian people leave Gaza Strip for what? For whom? For the extremist criminals in the Israeli government who promised to make Gaza Strip a new base of settlements for settlers? I don't think that will be acceptable, and we refuse that totally.
And lastly, on the issue of Jerusalem, what is your position regarding Jerusalem? I remember President Trump in the Abraham Accords recognized Jerusalem as the capital city of Israel from Tel Aviv. What is your position on that?
We refuse that totally, because it is not even the right of the American administration or anybody else. And even that doesn't change of the reality that Jerusalem is occupied city and occupied capital. And we teach our children that Jerusalem is our capital. And even, by the way, the American extremist actions like this recognition of Jerusalem as united capital of Israel guide us to the moment that we have it. Because when they ignore the exist of the Palestinian people, when they ignore our rights, yes, you should find some people resist.
Right. And finally, your message to the rest of the world and South Africa, who has been standing by you, and Zimbabwe as well. What would you want to say regarding the Palestinian situation?
Actually, we highly appreciate the solidarity and the support that we receive from the African nations. And I want to name Zimbabwe as a great friend to Palestine, and South Africa as a principal and value holder country in Africa. We have great relations with South Africa, and historical actually relations with the other countries in the area here, and we support all the actions that were taken by the South African government to take the Israelis the Israeli criminals to the ICJ, and we hope that it will give a new concept of justice to the even the colonial power who support the Israeli apartheid occupation and genocide in Palestine nowadays. As Palestinians, we think that our common history with the African nations and the African national movements during their struggle against the apartheid regimes and the occupations before, I think this history can be a flame for our generations and to our future or next actions in cooperation. We highly appreciate the solidarity also that we got from every single country in the world, in the public ground and also in the official ground. When we condemned the support, some colonial power support to the Israeli genocide, it doesn't mean that we are not happy of the public action in the ground from the civil societies who organize demonstrations daily against the Israeli crimes in Palestine. So I think nowadays the Gaza question make or test our humanity and test our values everywhere, and we should condemn all the killing, we should condemn all the bloodshedding, we should condemn all the occupation, we should condemn all the apartheid regimes, we should condemn all the extremists, we should all the extremist background and the extremist cultures that try to be imposed on the oppressed people, that, like the Israeli culture. I'm sure sooner or later the Israeli apartheid occupation will be finished and will be ended, because no oppressors continue, and the Palestinian people will not be the exception of the other peoples who got their liberty and freedom.
Yes, and thank you for adding that. I wanted to also add that we've seen thousands of people demonstrating across Europe, across America, in the cities in support of Palestine, and I wanted you to comment on that, but now that you've spoken of it.
Yes, we support and we highly appreciate that, as I mentioned, and we think that these people reflect the values of the people in Europe and in the North America and the South America, in Africa, in Asia, and the other areas. We think that we can build the stability and peace, cooperation with everyone in the world in the basic of ending the Israeli occupation and condemned this apartheid genocide in Gaza Strip.
Thank you so much, Ambassador, and thank you, Zimbabwe, for watching. Catch you on the next program. Goodbye.